You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we're going to be previewing England's Test series against South Africa. Will the Bazball Odyssey continue, or can Dean Elgar and the Proteas slow things up a little bit? He seemed to think so in the press this week. We'll also be talking about the 100 later on with Max. For now, it's me, Jack, joined by Ross Legg. How you doing, Ross?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. Obviously, a purist of Test match cricket, really. So leaving Max to do the 100, as I need to swan off and do a bit of dinner.
Exactly. Also, we're on a mission to convince all of our ex-listeners that just because we don't mind the 100 doesn't mean we hate Test cricket. Ross, before we get into things, we used to do like questions to kick things off.
Yep.
Well, we're not going to do that. We're going to do a micro news story that I saw today. Shakib Al Hasan, some notable things about him recently. Banned for a betting scandal. Captain going to be the captain of Bangladesh for the upcoming Asia Cup. He announced earlier this week that he was in a PR partnership with a company. I think they were called BetWin.
Right.
He signed a deal with a bookmaker. Their website said they weren't a bookmaker, but like anybody called BetWin is a bookmaker. Do you think it was a controversial decision from the Bangladesh Cricket Board to say to him that he would lose the captaincy and be suspended for the Asia Cup if he were to continue in that partnership, or do you think he should have been allowed to continue being a PR representative for a bookmaker?
I'm glad they've stepped in there. I mean, in terms of responsibility as cricket boards go, that's pretty cut and dry, that one. And remember all the hoo-ha that happened with the Pakistani bowlers and Salman Butt, and the visceral hatred of that kind of came through. There's no space for match fixing. There's no space for even just allowing that potential corruption to come in. Not saying they are corrupt, but just even having that around the squad is not a good thing, right? It's too much of the adjacent possible involved in that.
Especially if you're the captain, you've previously been suspended for betting, or not betting, but for not reporting an approach, and you're like the big team leader. Like
it needs to go in a program by the sounds of it. It doesn't need the captaincy; it needs rehab.
Bet winner, that's what they were called. So check them out. I guess we're doing the PR.
They're not endorsed by this podcast.
We'll do the PR. Get in touch. Right, Ross, messages to listeners.
Yes, you should follow us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and also on TikTok. We've gone past. We're into the small video market now, and TikTok seems to be going off with a bit of a boom, especially all of our coverage of the 100, where we've been given press passes. So videos from the ground, looking at us in the press box. And Jack, we've also been doing a bit of writing, haven't we, on Substack? So if that's your medium, then go and check us out on Substack as well. Also, Patreon, Discord is. I thought it was going to quieten down a little bit after the IPL, Jack, but we're seeming to getting more and more people involved, and like the level of conversation now is. I know it's almost like we've got a diverse group of cricketing excellence on the Discord. So if you want to be part of that and add to that cauldron of cricketing insight, then join us patreon.com/the cricket podcast.
Cool. Final point. Support for the Cricket Podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who are the best in men's below the waist grooming. Manscaped offer precision engineered tools for your family. Jules, the code that you need to know: cricketpod at manscaped.com, 20% off and free worldwide shipping. All of this stuff that we've just been talking about is in the show notes, so check it out there. Once more, cricketpod at manscaped.com for 20% off and free worldwide shipping. In the second half of the show, I will ask Max a question about his testicles. So
yeah, he did say he was going to put aside a bit of me time, didn't he, on the last podcast?
Yeah.
So
no, I think we've already talked about the me time, but I'll have to think about something else. Ross, England v South Africa. It's a good series, isn't it? Normally, talk to me. What are your initial thoughts? What do you want to draw attention to?
First of all, I mean, you mentioned it in the intro, but Bazball has rattled them. Like it's fair to say, it has rattled them. There's and then being South Africa, because the Saffers are banned from using the word in the South African camp. The big scary Johnny Bairstow shaped elephant in the room is going to be eating them up inside. who wouldn't be rattled, Jack, is what I want to ask, is because we've done India, we've done New Zealand, and now we'll show our time zone friends South Africa who's the real boss. So yes,
Okay, that's an interesting call. I mean, England have been playing some good cricket for the first time in a while. I think talk to me more about this. The banning of the word Bazball, please. Like, I don't know if the approach that's the best approach. I mean, they've turned the England cricket team into Lord Voldemort. And I don't think they're that. Like, I think they've played some good cricket this year. Not the Dark Lord.
No, there's yeah, it's there's no magic wand that is going to solve this, but I think it's quite an interesting one because I think when it comes to this kind of stuff, like it's always easy for an idea to grow arms and legs, right? And then people start putting something in their head, and like cricket is already a mental game. Like the batsmen that have struggled, the bowlers that have struggled, like, it's already a mental game. Adding this mythical beast, which is Bazball, to your psyche, I don't think can be a good thing for South Africa. I think they under Boucher and under Dean Elgar's captaincy, I mean they're unbeaten under Elgar's captaincy. So they've got their own brand of cricket, and that might be a little bit more pragmatic. And in the press, they've been talking about how Bazball isn't sustainable, and at some point the wheels are going to come off, and that's probably true. But our B team just obliterated them. The England Lions just racked up one by over an innings and 20 odd runs or whatever it was, scoring over 600 runs. We've got miles in our bowlers' legs in terms of getting Craig Overton and Ollie Robinson back up to fitness, which I think, again, competition for spots is important, right? I think we can talk about that in a little bit. I think it's a bit of a mistake to do this. I think this is exactly what the England team probably would have wanted, is to have
they want to be Lord
Voldemort.
Voldemort.
They want this thing to be that they want to be going onto the pitch with a 1% edge, and already I feel like they've been given that 1% edge by them going, we're not going to talk about Bazball.
Okay, I think that makes sense to some extent. What do you think about Baz namesake of Bazball, Brendan McCullum, sort of saying it was a little bit silly, and I mean, I think the direct quote is, that's why I don't really like the silly term that people are throwing around out there, because there's actually quite a lot of thought that goes into how the guys manufacture their performances and when they put pressure on bowlers and which bowlers they put pressure on. It sounds to me like Baz is saying that Bazball isn't real and that actually it's just Johnny Bairstow being a good cricketer. Reading between the lines a little bit, obviously there's been some change in mindset from the England team point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So, putting our two ideas together, or putting Brendan McCullum's idea and Dean Elgar or whoever it was the idea together here, are you kind of saying that England's new way of playing, not Bazball, has created a mirage effect that might have, given them a leg up, let's say?
So I think a little bit. I think in terms of any time someone comes along and has a look at the traditional game, whichever sport it's in, and looks at the kind of the normal traditional things that people would do, I think it's quite a scary proposition, right? If you look at the South Africa team, they're pretty light on the ground in terms of experience playing in England, which I think already counts in England's favour. That's not to say they don't have a chance, though. As I said, Boucher, relatively pragmatic coach, typically values the sum of its parts rather than kind of the big name players doing everything. And we've seen that in some of the selection decisions that have come down the line. I kind of see this South Africa side as what I think Chris Silverwood wanted his England side to be, if that makes sense. Like very much like they'll be trying to be difficult to beat. They'll do the basics right, and they'll grit and determination will do their level best to get them through. Whereas Bazball or McCullum's piece is going, well, why do we need to be defensive in this regard? Why do we need to have to be meek and passive? Why can't we be aggressive here? Why can't we send in a nighthawk instead of a night watchman? And it's those small little things that, it's just a different way of looking at the game.
I suppose Elgar was asked about this, wasn't he, in an interview this week, and he said this: the New England side is quite interesting. He does go on. I thought I'd leave a funny pause. Yeah. But I don't think there's longevity in Brave cricket, because I see things evening out over time in Test cricket. There was often parity between England and New Zealand, and had New Zealand taken their opportunities and their catches, then things could have been very different England would have come away with egg on their faces. So it sounds like, what Elgar's saying there is that England, I think we've sort of said this as well. England have played a black brand of cricket that introduces luck and chance into the equation to quite a significant extent, which is quite helpful when you're playing teams that probably on paper are better than you, because it means that you can reduce the game down to like, a difficult chance with Johnny Bairstow batting. Like if you take that, you win the game by 100. If you don't, then he's going to keep hitting you into the stands. I read that and I thought that was quite a mature approach from Dean Elgar. To be honest, I think he's done quite a good job as South Africa captain. And although it's funny that they've banned the word Bazball, that seems reasonable to me, Ross.
Yeah, I think they're, as you said, I think they're in good hands in Dean Elgar, and also Temper Bavuma on their white ball side, who's injured and is going to miss this Test series. But yeah, as I said, they're unbeaten under his guidance. He's kind of trying to build a bit of a Jose Mourinho siege mentality kind of vibe is what I'm picking up of it. Kind of, he wants to play backs to the wall, grind this out kind of thing. And just like he bats, right? He's an obdurate batsman and kind of thrives off that scenario, and he's building a team in that image.
And that's what he said, pretty much. He said, we play the game hard. And if anything, we were just giving back. So I think he's talking about the recent series and some sledging there. And if anything, we were just giving back what we were getting when we were batting. It is Test cricket. It's a man's environment. Right, careful there, Graham Souness. When it comes to playing at this, level, and I intend to play the game hard. Elgar is setting out his stall there. In a sense, I think again, it's good to have an identity, and I think South Africa tend to play, without generalising too much, play better when they do have a slightly aggressive edge to them, and they are playing on the front foot. It sort of fits their identity, doesn't it? With big fast bowlers and batters like Elgar who are prepared to take it on the chin and hang around. Who should we look out for from a South African point of view? And then we'll maybe talk a little bit about England.
Yeah, so I think it's I think first and foremost, let's talk about the injuries. So in terms of looking out for who you won't be seeing is Duan Olivier. So that which
could have won.
Yeah. So did you go and play for Durham when before Brexit happened?
Yorkshire, I think.
Yorkshire, that was it.
Yeah.
And he's torn his hip muscle, which must be very, very uncomfortable. So he's out the series and probably a little while longer than that. Rabada remains a doubt at the moment, and Rabada is these box office. I think since we started this show, we have said that Rabada is one of our favourite players. And the question for them is, can they afford to have him play in this test? Can they afford to leave him out of this test match, especially the first one in a 3-match series? Really important to get off to a good start. But on the other side of that coin is, can they afford to play someone who is carrying an injury or just coming back to that fitness? So their bowling unit at the moment is Marco Jansen, the 7 foot tall left armer who can bat a bit.
Yeah.
They've got Anrich Nortje, who, as we know from the IPL, is 90 miles an hour. He is hostile. He's a master craftsman of his fast bowling trade now. And they've got Ngidi, who actually performed really quite well in the limited overs against England. So that's probably the pace lineup, and Rabada's trying to fit in around that. If he is fit, that is a question mark around what their composition of the team looks like, because I think at Lords they're unlikely to pick 2 spinners. So 2 of the better players are Simon Harmer and Kishore Maharaj, and it's difficult to fit the kind of 4 or 5 bowlers into that lineup at the moment.
Yeah, I can see that. I suspect on that call, on the spinner call, they will go with Harmer after Maharaj got minced basically against the England B team, I guess I guess it will be. I mean, I suppose it would be Ngidi and Nortje and Jansen as the other 3 bowlers. Do they have somebody who can sort of turn their arm over, and Markram maybe?
Markram's likely to be. Yeah, Markram's likely to be the kind of middle order batsman in that space. Yeah, kind of offering that piece. And what is interesting is that at Lords, we have waited about 40 days for some rain in England.
Yeah.
And And it's quite interesting to see that the second that England have put a test match in, it's going to be thunderstorms all week. So,
Okay.
like
They might be all right then with just 3 seamers.
I think there's going to be. I think it'll be rain affected. I think it'll be different. This might be looking at a draw weather-wise, but you never know with this team.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think.
I don't hate that South Africa attack. I think Norke is a really interesting point of variation. I think Marco Jansen being left armour and being tall will really suit Lords. I think those sorts of bowlers do really well. And I actually think Ngidi, better first class or test bowler than he is a limited overs bowler, I think. And again, I think, I don't know if you've seen the pictures this week. It's as usual at Lords these days. Looks like it's going to be a green one. No hose pipe ban at HQ. And I think that pitch might suit him as well. So looking good on the bowling front.
Impressive against India.
Yeah, looking good on the bowling front. Is there batting the area that might be slightly more shaky, do you think?
So they've got as we talked, Dean Elgar leads from the front very much here.
Yes, he opens.
Yeah,
that's literally
his job.
Literally the first man.
I think he's got the highest batting average of the 2 teams other than Joe Root. So not a bad place to be. It still is under 40 because England and South Africa are particularly prodigious batting sides. But in Irwell, he's got a batting partner. I think they're probably going with Keegan Peterson, who, again...
He was okay, wasn't he, against India?
It was very much a nearly person, very much like would get to 35, whatever, and then something ridiculous would happen with him. But then they've got Markram and Rassie van der Dussen in the middle, and Rassie van der Dussen is in a good vein of form at the moment. And I think having him in there, and he scored runs against England before, and I actually think that counts for quite a lot, especially against this England side.
I feel with Rassie, he's got a touch of the shy hopes about him. Pretty good in ODI cricket. I'm not absolutely sold on him as a test batter. I mean, I can see why they're sticking with him, because I don't think the cupboard is particularly full. But 15 tests, an average of 32, top score of 98, strike rate of 41. Yeah, he's a sort of candidate. He's a candidate for some Bazball, I reckon. Maybe with the crap balls that we're using in England at the moment, it will actually suit him this summer, and he can play a little bit more freely and do well. Anything else on these boys?
We might see a run out of Ryan Rickleton, who I know that has kind of intrigued people. So he's a left-handed wicketkeeper, but he's kind of vying for that place with Carl Vernon. Is that how to say his name?
No. I gave you a pronunciation guide earlier in the week.
Yeah, I've not read that. I'm just naturally gifted at talking about people's names I've never read before. Just like Paul
countries
Merson.
You've never been to.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I think again, this team are they still top of the World Test Championship?
Yeah, I think so.
Rankings at the moment. They're unbeaten under Dean Elgar's tutelage. So I think that they're no rollovers, and England are typically bad at Lords. So yeah, they've got a decent chance. Should we talk about England?
Yeah, let's talk about England. Where do you want to start? Batters, bowlers, people we expect to see, people we don't expect to see, people who are unlucky. Let me know.
Let's talk about the bowlers. So I think England, you typically look to keep a winning team together, and we've been a bit of a run, which is good. Mm-hmm. And the last Test match versus India, it was a fantastic victory. But if you look at the bowling, we managed to obviously take 20 wickets. But was Stuart Broad really at his best in that scenario? Stuart Broad,
second top wicket taker in the world this year. That's Stuart Broad.
That's Stuart Broad. Yeah, that's Stuart Broad. The guy who also went for the world record of a single over with Jasprit Bumrah bowling to him. And so I don't think the Broad will lose his place, but I think that having Ollie Robinson and Craig Overton in the squad, especially after performing so well against the Lions, I think is a particularly good thing. I think, again, Broad, whether it's right or wrong, typically bowls better when he's got a point to prove. And at the moment, you've got the dying of the light of a test career there. He's still bowling relatively well, but having a bit more competition for places is a good thing. I think continuing on that vein, Matty Potts. So Matty Potts, I think, has been a really good addition to this England side, but I think we talked about it. He's probably 8th choice.
Yeah, I don't know if he is
However,
a still eighth choice. But
and
carry on.
this is the bit, right? Does his performances actually put him up into the top 5 or top 4 actual people because he owns that place? And I think it does. I think he has offered a point of difference. I think he has been something that is relatively new, and I think they're probably still going to be a little bit concerned about Ollie Robinson's workload and might just want him round the squad and then get him into the team for the second Test match and rotate that way. But I'm not too sure yet.
If I'm England, I'm playing Ollie Robinson at Lords. I fully expect for that reason that they won't do that. But I feel like Robinson at Lords and then Robinson maybe at the Oval, where it's been a bit bouncy this year, a bit quicker this year. They could be the best 2 decks for him. And what is it, Old Trafford in the sandwich? Maybe don't play him at Old Trafford. That would be how I would do it. Or recognize that he is probably the best or second best bowler and play him in all 3. That's what I would do. The thing with Ollie Robinson, I mean, I don't think the talent is really in any question, is it? Like, everybody knows that Ollie Robinson is good at cricket. I mean, I do. Do you know that?
I think I know that. Yep.
The problem, I suppose, is that they say fitness, but it feels like that's a bit more of a byword for attitude. Didn't try hard enough, didn't take it seriously enough, or something like that. Something went wrong in Australia, and I think that's why you got that outburst from John Lewis about fitness, even though Ollie Robinson was probably England's best bowler in the matches that he played in.
Yeah. So it is the coach's job to deal with difficult personalities, right? And this is what sometimes frustrates me. Like, if you've got someone like Ollie Robinson, he might have an attitude problem, but we don't know that, right? Is it kept under kind of lock and key? But there is a way. If you have to play your best players, and you have to be able to manage that and get your best out of your team. The question I'll pose back to you, Jack, is: does Jack Leach actually drop out the side here? So Ben Stokes has been a huge buyer of Jack Leach, backed him to the hilt here. Lords has been a bit of a graveyard for spinners recently, and maybe England go with an all-seam lineup.
I feel like they don't. I think to some extent, Ben Stokes has made Jack Leach into a kind of talisman of this England side. I think they love. They've made no secret of this. I think they love his attitude. They love the fact that, I mean, this is going to sound ridiculous. They love the fact that he got concussion trying to save a run. Like, they want players with that attitude in the team. And I think that to some extent, at least, they value that can-do, that front foot approach, that I'm going to buy in, that kind of, we might not be the best, but we're the bravest type guy over and above of Robinson. So, I mean, I don't think they're directly vying for the same spot in the team necessarily here. But I don't think that having backed Leach for 4 tests and backed him when a few people thought, when he did give himself that concussion, that was it. That was going to be his last moment on the pitch for England. Having gone back to him, I'd be a little bit surprised if they undermined him or were seen to be undermining him at this point of view. If they do, I think they'd have to manage it quite well. So I don't expect to see that. I mean, if you were gonna barrel of a gun, who do I think England will play? Anderson, Broad, Potts, Leach. I think they'll stick.
Keep it.
They'll stick, not twist.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would do that. I mean, I think I've been pretty clear that I'd have Robinson. Right. I might have Robinson, Potts, and Anderson and Leach. I might do what you say and get rid of Leach, but I don't know what England will do, Ross. I'd like to have an inside line here, but I don't think anyone really does. I mean, I'm a little bit surprised to see Robinson back in the squad, to be honest. And now that he is, is the project, let's see what his attitude's like. Let's see if he runs drinks. Let's see if he buys into it. Let's see if he'll be the one who headbutts a sign to prove
take on the Toblerone.
Yeah, to improve how invested they are in this project. Or maybe they are like being very pragmatic and picking their best player. Certainly with this New England side, they're not always upfront with that sort of thing. I wouldn't say.
Yeah, my view is at the moment there is poor weather expected. I think if you're going to play a game, I don't think Jack Leach is going to be the one who turns the game on its head at Lords. I'd be going for an all-seam lineup.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
And that's kind of my logic on that front. Batting wise, Zach Crawley has retained his place in the Test squad for this series.
We had 2 questions about this actually. Let me. It's a good time for questions.
Indeed.
One from Mask. And one from John Matthews. I'm going to read John's, but Mask is more or less. Well, I'll read a portmanteau of both. Okay. Assuming England start with Crawley, do we protect players? Batters and bowlers being dropped on a whim too much. How often do players have to have a spell of form this bad for this long before we drop them? And Mask says, is this the last chance for Crawley, or do you see the new management persisting with him? So let's answer the Crawley point first.
Yeah. So I think with this lineup, England clearly have that identity point that we've spoken about on this podcast so far. And I think with Zach Crawley, they have someone there who they just like, we have nobody else in the country who seemingly bats like this, like with kind of complete gay abandon, really, on this kind of stuff. Whether it's last chance saloon, I'm not too sure. I think he looked in good touch in the second innings against India. He looked so much better, so much more assured at the crease, was leaving well outside off stump, and he hit 45 or something along in that innings, and actually looked like he knew what he was doing. However, there was 9 innings where he looked like he had no idea what he was doing in the rest of the summer. He has looked in good touch in the 100 as well, and whether that counts for anything, I probably think it does. I think
he's averaging 14 in the 100.
Yeah, see, good touch for Zach Crawley. his average was 9 for a whole year. So, but there's those bit like. I think they want them to do well, and I think this is the bit of going, we will back you. I'm not sure. I'm probably on the. I don't want to be the guy who goes, someone shouldn't play for England, but his first class average is less than 30. That is a very difficult sell. And he's been given this is his 15th Test match, maybe more.
I think much more than that.
Yeah, 25.
I reckon he's less. Well, you say 25. I reckon 23. Let's see. I'm sure he must have a 2 handle by now. It's bang on 25. So, Ross, you take the points.
Max is even here to beat him in the quiz. But yeah, it's just that bit for me. And what I do like though about this lineup is that at least they've got someone who his ceiling is. They could win them the Test match, so that's always a nice thing. Alex Lees looks like he's got more confidence as well, and was came out like Matthew Hayden against India.
Well, I think Lees giving it to Kohli as well. I don't know if we told that story on the podcast, the story about Lees and Kohli.
No, I don't think so. John, tell it.
Oh, do you remember at tea? I think on day 4 when Lees and Crawley had teed off and scored 100. Apparently, do you remember like Kohli and Lees were drawing at each other as they walked off the pitch. Apparently it's because Kohli had been, basically Kohli had been saying to him, enjoy your match fee. This is the last time you're ever going to play for England. That was the line that Kohli, even while Lees was like happily smashing India all over the place, it was enjoy your match fee, mate. This is the last time you're ever going to play for England. You're not good enough for international cricket. What are you going to spend it on? All of that nonsense. It got to tea. They were walking off, and Alex Lees said to Virat Kohli, Virat, I've had 2 kids since you last scored a Test ton, mate, and that set Kohli off. Like you don't have a pop at God, do you? God wasn't happy, and so that I've got a lot of respect for that. I feel like I came into this summer probably thinking that Alex Lees wasn't long for the England team. I think there's a bit more about him. I think there's a little bit of a swagger to him now, a little bit of the Haydos to him for sure.
He's going to be an after-dinner speaker, entrepreneur, painter. TheHaydenWay.com if you're interested in Alex, Matthew Hayden's big biography. Fair enough, I think. And this lineup again is an interesting. England's approach has been to batter teams on flat decks. I don't think we're going to get that at Lords. Root obviously remains a marvel. Bairstow's purple patch can only last for so long. Let's hope it continues for a while longer yet. Harry Brook is the man who is in serious form, and that is a serious purple patch. Do you think they'll change Ollie Pope at 3, or that is a commitment they're going to make for a long time, and Harry Brook remains on the sideline for now?
I think Pope's made runs recently enough to keep his place. The problem with Pope, and a little bit the same with Crawley for England so far, is that they haven't made the other runs in between the big runs. I think there's a skill that England perhaps don't value particularly highly when it comes to Test cricket, and that is effectively the production of quite ugly runs.
Yeah.
The kind of runs that basically keep you in a county side. Now Pope at first class level, at the level below, obviously has that in his locker. He is able to churn out runs. He's not. He isn't doing it if it's the starts. He's belting out big runs. Crawley literally hasn't learnt that skill. Pope needs to work on whatever it is that translates regularly getting, even if it's 40 or 50 or a 60 here and there, and coupling that with a century or two a season. He needs to translate that to the big game. Crawley needs to learn the thing full stop. Harry Brook, I think he's going to be unlucky again. I think he's going to be running drinks, to be perfectly honest.
Mm-hmm. And do we think that what's Ollie Pope's record like against fast left armers? Because he won't have faced too many Marco Janssens at this time, and I think Marco Janssens is going to cause a bit of bother for England.
Well, I think probably the one bloke, and I'll look it up now. But he did. Doesn't he have a test ton against? No, he doesn't have a test ton against Pakistan, does he? It's he has played Test cricket against Pakistan, so he'll have seen. There will be a little bit of a sample here. Look, I'm clicking submit now on this query. Against left arm bowling, he's faced 350 balls. He's not great against it. He's not markedly worse than against anything else. It's bizarrely sort of off spin that seems to be his big problem.
Hayden Markram, here he comes.
Yeah. Or Simon Harmer.
Yeah, Simon Harmer could. Yeah, England's weakness against spin could well be exposed, but at the same time, who knows? But for Ollie Pope, I think this is again quite a big series for him. But he's still young. He's not even 25, I don't think, and he's been given that lease of life. So let's hope. We're trying to pick holes in this lineup who have won four Test matches in a row, whatever it is. I think it will actually be quite an interesting series. I think England will come out and they will play big booming cricket. I think Dean Elgar is partly right, just because it's worked against New Zealand, who are obviously, I think in hindsight, we'll see them as a team on the decline. I don't think we'll look at them quite the same as when they first rocked up. And it's like, oh, World Test Championships, best team in the world. They clearly aren't that anymore. India, that really was quite a stunning victory. Although they were, complicit in their own downfall with some of their selections. South Africa, I think, are a team. They might not be an all-time great team, but I think for this collection of players, they are a lot of them are near their peaks. I think they're quite a formidable team on that front. Elgar's playing the best he has. Rassie van der Dus and Markram probably are as well. Bowling unit is very good. They've got a good number 8 in Simon Harmer if they want to pick him. That's a crucial position. So I think it could be a good ding dong series, and I do think that Elgar's right. Like if South Africa take the chance when England present it, because they will, because of the way they're playing, then they could have a lot of joy against England. On the other hand, if they don't, it could easily be 3-0 England. Which side of the fence are you going to sit on then? Are you going to go England win
for Lords? For Lords or the series?
No, let's just do test match by test match.
Okay, right. For Lords, I think that England, if there is a result, will be the winners. Okay. I think England actually will bat better than New Zealand to the South Africa. I think roots are a big factor. I think the bowling lineups compare pretty well. I think Bairstow will still be Bairstowing it up, and that will possibly give them the edge. I don't think it's a given though. I think that South Africa have got a good, 1 in 3 stake in this match.
Brilliant. Well, I'll go the opposite side. I'll just do the opposite. South Africa, I think, will turn up with a big point to prove here. I think England typically struggle at Lords. I think if we do get a result, I think South Africa are going to put the money where their mouth is. Cool.
One last question, and then we will wrap up this half of the show before I switch over to speaking to Max. Is there a world, this is from Nuffy, is there a world in which Ben Duckett gets a recall? Another guy got 100 against South Africa in the B team match.
I think there is a world in it. I think having that left hand in that order is always an important thing. They obviously have Alex Lees and Ben Stokes in that lineup at the moment. I think it's going to be quite difficult to force your way in between kind of Root, Bairstow, and Stokes in that kind of 4-5-6, where I typically think Duckett would be. I'm not quite sure he's going to be the three that England would be looking for against Ollie Pope. I think Ben Duckett has a bigger chance of coming into the ODI side than he does in the Test match side at present, but who knows?
Yeah, I can definitely see Duckett playing some ODIs at some point in the relatively near future, with Morgan departing. I just think right now, England with Root, Stokes and Bairstow at 4, 5 and 6 are pretty sure that they're going to be, those guys are locks for 12 months minimum, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like they could do a Zach Crawley. Any one of them could do a Zach Crawley, and they could do a Jason Roy times by a Zach Crawley, and they're going to be in the team for the next 12 months. And that doesn't leave you many routes in. It's probably the same deal for Harry Brooks. Someone's going to have to do number 3 and probably fail, and that sucks, but that's cricket. Cool. Right. Catch you in a bit if you're hanging around. Goodbye, Ross. You're not.
Yeah. Goodbye.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.